Season 2 of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives is nigh, and I gotta say, I am so ready. I actually love the show. And even though I usually recap older, more historical lore on here, this felt like a good time for a mom talk, Taylor, Frankie, Paul, Swingergate deep dive. This way we can all go into Season 2 with the full uncensored story because they left a lot of details out in those first 8 episodes. So we're gonna get into all of it. We're gonna talk about Taylor's beginnings on social media, how MomTok started, what exactly went down with the cheating scandal, and everything thereafter. But before we get into it, I must warn you, this is a bit of a complicated story for a couple of reasons. For starters, there are a lot of people in this story, and let's be real, a lot of them look very similar. So I'm gonna do my best to make it abundantly clear who I'm talking about, but bear with me. Secondly, the facts are a little bit blurry. Sometimes someone's story changes later on, or they just straight up lie. Sometimes two people have different recollections of the same event. Sometimes certain people leave out details that other people share. It was actually really interesting to research all of this because you kind of get thrown around a lot. As per usual, all of my references are linked down below if you want to go into any specific rabbit holes. Otherwise, I hope this video is similarly chaotic for your emotions and opinions. Also, I really wanted to do those Utah beachy waves to really capture the essence of the story. I don't know how to use a curling iron with a clamp, and I tried to use my wand and all of my curls fell out. So I'm not giving hair by Chrissy, but just know, I really wanted to. Okay, let's just get into it. Let's start at the beginning with the woman at the center of the whole story, Taylor Frankie Paul. Taylor's originally from Colorado, but she moved to Utah in high school and grew up LDS. With this religious and cultural influence, she got married pretty young at 22 to Tate Paul, and they quickly had 2 children. Like, she got pregnant with her first on their honeymoon and then joined an MLM apparently. It was very that. By 2020, she was on TikTok and posting content about herself and her family. And her early content really runs the gamut. You've got videos of her showing off her hip-length hair, sharing her pregnancy and baby essentials, and comparing her son to Donnie from the OC. I never watched that other show. But throughout all of her videos, 2 things are very clear. This girl knows how to troll, and her TikTok account thrives on hate comments. Many of her videos are simply responses to insults and shady questions, always with a smile. When someone comments that she and Tate look like siblings, she responds with a trending sound video correcting the commenter. They're not siblings, they're third cousins. When someone pokes fun at her for an empty bra, she responds with a dance video, along with the caption, "Wouldn't have it any other way. #IttyBittyCommittee." She takes the backlash and she thrives off of it, amassing a following of millions by constantly pranking, or some would say lying to, and trolling strangers who come across her videos on the FYP. She shares several videos about her house being haunted, and people take the bait. The comment sections on these are filled with people arguing over the video's authenticity. If memory serves me right, the first video that I ever saw of Taylor was her poorly washing her hair in the bathtub. Like, she never rinsed or anything, she just haphazardly dipped her hair in the dirty water. Overall, a very successful trolling exercise that she repeated several times. But what was really interesting about Taylor's content is that she was very openly LDS, while also very openly going against LDS ideals. She posted about feeling judged for not dressing modestly enough, she used trending sounds that cussed, and she often replied to commenters accusing her of not actually being religious. Eventually, she starts trolling with a couple of new willing participants who she claims are her 2 daughters. They're 25-year-old twins, and Taylor is their 50-year-old mom with a very intense skincare routine. On the left in this example from August 2021, we have Miranda McWhorter, and she's married to a guy named Chase. On the right, we've got Camille Monday, and she's married to a guy named Sam. These 3 ladies are the beginning of MomTok, okay? This is the jumping off point. The show claims that the other cast members were the first MomTokers. No, they all came later, but we will get there. Anyway, the 3 of them make videos together, dancing in their athleisure wear and responding to commenters. Miranda and Taylor even start a clothing line together called Happy Valley. No E in Valley though. I don't know why that is, but yeah. Taylor's following continues to skyrocket along with these other moms, and eventually more women start to show up in the videos. MomTok quickly goes from a group of 3 to a group of sister wives doing roll call. By early 22, the group has expanded to include some other important players in the story. We've got Whitney, Macy, Layla, Michaela, Demi. I think that's all you need to know for now. Let's not overcomplicate it. All of these ladies are doing TikToks together and growing their social media followings substantially. And even though they don't all necessarily fit the LDS moral ideal, they're all thin, beautiful, married mothers who seem to live in McMansions. They show up online in full beat fantasies with their thick extensioned hair and hair by Chrissy beachy waves. And the public is living for it. Taylor even says that she was offered a spot on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Can you imagine Taylor versus Jen Shaw in a rage footage blackout? Wow. But if you were able to look past the luxury vinyl plank flooring and Stanley cups, some serious shit was going down. Forever an online oversharer, in May 2022, Taylor started posting about getting divorced. Naturally, some of the top comments are, wait, so you're not actually 50 and those two blonde girls aren't your twin daughters? A couple of my personal favorites. Okay, but can we talk about global warming and climate change? And what sweats are these? Honestly, Taylor's comment sections up to this point are very, very funny. Other viewers really weren't surprised. A video of Taylor talking about sleeping separately from Tate had previously gone viral, so they claimed to have seen the writing on the wall. News of the divorce was spreading quickly, and next thing we all knew, Taylor was going live on TikTok to explain why. If you asked her, she'd tell you that she felt like she had no choice but to go live because all of these rumors were going around as to why she was getting divorced. Apparently, an inside source had told the Reddit snarkers that Taylor and Tate's marriage was over because she'd cheated on him with a friend's husband. When that rumor started making its way into MomTok comment sections, Taylor said that her fellow mommies were liking the comments in confirmation. This was very messy. Who was the friend? Was she part of MomTok? What were the circumstances? As it turned out, the rumor was true. Sort of. There was a little bit of context missing, and that's what Taylor wanted to clear up. Yeah, she confirmed that she did hook up with a friend's husband, but she wasn't the only one. She and a few friends had been swinging for the past year and a half. Her marriage to Tate was open. They would have these wild cabin parties, drink until they were belligerent, and then hook up with each other. Of course, it all started with the husbands encouraging the wives to make out, and then it just escalated from there. Taylor's problem was that she had violated a couple of boundaries. First of all, none of them were supposed to be hooking up unless their partners were present. She and this friend's husband had slept together alone. Secondly, their swinging was soft, as in not going all the way, and she and her friend's husband had done just that. As for whom she and Tate were swinging with, she remained pretty vague at the time, although she did say that the wife of her hookup had also been intimate with Tate.
No, guys, not none. Some majority of MomTok is not involved, just to clear that up.
So the majority of MomTok had nothing to do with it. She even specifically called out Camille by name. Neither she nor her husband Sam had ever hooked up with anyone outside of their marriage. Overall, it was a huge mess of a situation. She and Tate weren't even the only couple going through divorce. Two others were separating as well because according to her, this swinging circle was just a big mess of people having feelings for other people's partners. Meanwhile, MomTok members have started unfollowing Taylor. They're deleting videos and pictures. Some of them are even speaking out to shame Taylor, like Whitney. And on the audience side, the witch hunt is on. People started going through past MomTok content with a fine-toothed comb, and what they found was pretty telling. Taylor and her fellow MomTokers made several videos about swinging, and at the time they seemed like jokes, but now they were looking like admissions. Taylor had even straight up said that she and Tate were in an open relationship. The truth had been sitting there right in front of everyone this whole time. I think that we were all just so used to Taylor trolling that no one took her seriously. At this point, Camille's name was cleared, but what about Miranda? Her comments started flooding with accusations. Was Chase the one that Taylor slept with? Did one of them have feelings for someone else's spouse? It was all just too overwhelming, so Miranda and Chase went live to address everything. According to them, Chase did not have romantic feelings toward Taylor whatsoever. They weren't involved in any sort of affair, and they weren't swinging. In fact, she had been messaging Taylor about the fallout. Apparently, Taylor had made these accusations that Chase did have feelings for her, and this had spread throughout their entire friend group. Now Miranda was mad at Taylor for alluding on the live that MomTokers were involved and for spreading this rumor that Chase had feelings for her when he didn't. As Miranda and Chase pled their case, the commenters were not buying it. A lot of people hadn't seen the accusations in Miranda's comment section, so they were confused as to why she was addressing this. Why are you so desperate to clear your name if you're not involved? Commenters in the live were also bringing up additional evidence that they felt incriminated Miranda. Photos were circulating from an OF account with Miranda's name and photo on it, and they appeared to be photos of Miranda and Taylor in lingerie. It looked like these photos were proof of Miranda's involvement in the swinging group. A commenter alerted her and she assured them these photos were not recent enough to coincide with the swinging. They'd been at a bachelorette party years ago, and these were just fun, playful photos that they took before getting into the hot tub. Miranda said that the OF account wasn't even hers, but honestly, people were not buying that. OF has very strict guidelines when it comes to creating an account. You have to prove that you are who you say you are, so it's a little bit more difficult to catfish on there. And what's more, Taylor was calling out Miranda for the bachelorette narrative. She posted on her Instagram story that the photos were not that old. They'd been taken at a cabin party a year and a half ago. Wait, where have we heard about cabin parties?
It happened several times, like cabins, parties,
All of it. Right, from Taylor. It was looking more and more like Taylor's best friend Miranda and her husband Chase were involved somehow, but neither were fessing up. And in a somewhat shocking turn of events, Taylor went live again to plead Miranda's case. Sort of. She said that she got back on because Miranda had asked her to clear her name. The wording was very curious. You're back because Miranda asked you to clear her name. You're not back because you want to make sure everyone knows Miranda wasn't swinging. You're just doing her a favor, perhaps to preserve the friendship? The stakes were higher than ever, and no one wanted to be associated with Taylor or the swinging. Sure, it was embarrassing to get caught up in a cheating scandal in general, but everyone involved in this was LDS, so that just added an additional layer of shame. They'd been drinking, strike one. They'd been intimate outside of their marriages, strike two. And I'm pretty sure that lying is frowned upon too, right? Taylor had predicted in her initial TikTok live confession that none of the other swingers would admit it, and she was right. All of MOMTOK was denying involvement. But obviously, Taylor and Tate weren't just swinging with themselves. Even though the curiosity online definitely remained, news stories took over and MOMTOK tried to move on. Would we ever actually know who swung with Taylor and Tate? I don't know, I guess you'll have to keep watching. Yeah, we know. After the fallout, Taylor kept up communication with her cheating partner, her friend's husband. They'd both lost their marriages and their friends, so they really only had each other. It wasn't until a member of MOMTOK paid Taylor a visit that the tide started to turn. And interestingly enough, that MOMTOK member was Whitney, the anti-cheating crusader. Whitney felt like the she's a homewrecker narrative wasn't the full story, so she gave Taylor the opportunity to share her side. And when Taylor told the full swinging saga, Whitney and the other ladies started warming up to her again. Yes, she had done this awful thing and broken the boundaries that she, her husband, and the other couples had set. But feelings were being caught left and right. People were texting each other inappropriately. It was just a shit show of a situation that was doomed. If it hadn't been Taylor and old boy, certainly it would have been someone else. The whole thing was just messy. Taylor and Tate tried to work out co-parenting, and she shared an update on their situation the best way she knew how. With a dance. And as the friend group started opening up to Taylor again, a new relationship was blossoming too. This guy named Dakota had slid into Taylor's DMs 2 months after the scandal had broke, and they hit it off. Dakota had a troubled past too, and it was almost like their traumas bonded them together, you know what I mean? Plus, we would later learn that at this time, the showbiz sharks were already circling the group, hoping to turn this scandal into a TV show. Sure, MOMTOK was interesting before, and this wasn't the first time that Taylor had been approached about a reality show, but the scandal took everything to a whole new level. The story was hot, and producers couldn't wait to share it, or exploit it, depending on how you look at it. But many of the MOMTOKers were wary of involving themselves with Taylor publicly and airing out their dirty laundry on national television. Maybe eventually they'd find it in their hearts to participate. Regardless, it seemed like Taylor and Tate were figuring out the co-parenting thing, they'd both found happiness in new relationships, and MOMTOK might just survive all of this. But unfortunately, it wasn't all rainbows and Stanley Cups for long. Taylor continued to face incredible hardships. In late 2022, she suffered from an ectopic pregnancy, which can be deadly and it's very traumatic. She also had a chemical pregnancy a few months later. Plus, shit was also going down with Dakota behind the scenes. During their casual talking stage, he'd actually hooked up with someone else and been quite dishonest about it. Even though he was technically allowed to do that because they weren't exclusive, Taylor was still hurt. It was like she received immediate karma from cheating on Tate. Now she knew what it felt like to be betrayed by someone you love. All of this to say, Taylor Frankie Paul had a hell of a year in 2022. Going into 2023, she was still processing Swingergate, her divorce, her pregnancy losses, and her issues with Dakota. It all came to a boiling point on February 17th, 2023, when Taylor was arrested after a night of partying. The news broke and spread so fast, I remember seeing this all over TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. Even the police department spoke out about it. The rumors were swirling once again. Word was that Taylor had been arrested for domestic violence against Dakota and child abuse. What the hell happened? According to Taylor, she had gone out to a themed girls' night. The theme? Dress like your type. Or your ex. She can't exactly remember, but the point is that she was fully dressed up like a guy with drawn-on facial hair and everything. When she got home, all of the pain and heartbreak from the past year just came flooding out. She felt shame, despair, regret, all of the horrible feelings that she had tried to push down over the past few months. And even worse, her hormones were totally out of whack because of her pregnancy loss. Unfortunately, at some point, her sadness turned into anger, and even though she doesn't remember, we actually have the police body cam footage of their interaction interactions that night to kind of piece everything together. The cops are there in the first place because of a neighbor's 911 call. She'd heard a woman screaming and thought it was some sort of domestic violence situation. When the police arrive, they immediately separate Dakota and Taylor to get their statements. According to Taylor, when Dakota picked her up from the girls' night, he was instantly mad at her and they started fighting on the way home. It continued when they got home, and it escalated to the point where he shoved her into a kid's playset in their garage. Dakota doing that scared her to the point of peeing herself, and she went ballistic. She started hitting, pushing, and throwing metal chairs at him. Mind you, the entire time Taylor's telling this story, the cop can smell the alcohol on her and she's extremely agitated. She's crying, she's trying to get into the house to get Dakota to leave, she's calling her stepdad and telling him to come to the house. And all of this hullabaloo is happening in front of her young daughter, who was inside after witnessing the entire thing. According to Dakota, he was upset at Taylor for drinking at the girls' night, and they did start fighting on the way home. He's a recovering addict, and they'd had several conversations before this about limiting her drinking. He also explains all of the trauma she's gone through and that she's very well known online, so there's just a lot of emotional pain. As far as what actually went down when they got home, Dakota actually shares a cell phone video with the officer that corroborates his story. Like Taylor, he says that she was throwing metal chairs, putting holes in the wall, and he was seriously scared for himself and her daughter. In this interview, he says that one of the metal chairs hit Taylor's daughter, and the cell phone video seems to support that. The video itself has never gone public, but my understanding from the body cam footage is that the metal chair goes flying and then you hear Taylor's daughter start crying as if she's been hit. From what I can tell, it's still pretty unclear whether or not she was hit with the chair. On the body cam footage, the officer says there's no sign of injuries. However, in a follow-up interview that was part of the indictment, the detective was informed that the daughter had a painful goose egg on her head. I watched a few interviews where Taylor talks about the arrest, and she makes it sound like she's still unsure whether or not the chair hit her, but is leaning towards thinking it did not. Regardless, based on their statements, the cell phone footage, and the disarray of the home, Taylor is arrested that night. She's charged with reckless child abuse, assault, criminal mischief, and commission of domestic violence in the presence of a child. She spends about 8 hours in jail. According to Taylor, her time in jail was absolutely awful. Obviously, it's cold, you have no privacy, and she had no idea how things worked in there. I guess she watched Lock Up Raw or something and thought that she'd get beat up, but her cellie was actually really nice. She was a repeat offender and eased her mind about the whole thing. Meanwhile, as I mentioned earlier, this whole situation was spreading all over the internet. People were absolutely horrified by what Taylor had done, especially considering her daughter's involvement. It was just a lot. They were even more horrified when the legal order preventing Taylor from contacting Dakota was lifted and they got back together. In fact, that September of 2023, they announced that she was pregnant with her third child. She ended up taking a plea deal and was sentenced to 3 years of probation for the domestic violence charge, with the remaining charges being dropped. So no more getting into legal trouble, no drinking or being caught anywhere like a bar or a liquor store, just keeping it on the straight and narrow. And it was almost like the public had completely shifted focus from Swingergate to Taylor's parenting and her tumultuous relationship with Dakota. After all, this arrest had come on the heels of them breaking up briefly the month before, so clearly things weren't 100% copacetic. But as Chronically Online folks followed Taylor Frankie Paul's account for updates on her personal life, a lot of us had missed the memo that something was going on behind the scenes to document the fallout of Swingergate and what was really going on with MOMTOK. You know those showbiz sharks that I talked about earlier? Well, one of them was a man named Jenkins. And while you might not immediately recognize that name, I'm sure you know his work very well. In the 2000s, he worked at the legendary reality TV production company Bunim Murray, executive producing shows like Keeping Up with the Kardashians and all of their spin-offs. Kourtney and Khloe Take Miami, Kourtney and Kim Take New York. Did Kim and Khloe ever take anything? He also worked on The Simple Life and my personal Bunim Murray favorite, The Real World. When he launched Jeff Jenkins Productions, he did Bling Empire and My Unorthodox Life. All of this to say, he knew his shit. And when news broke that these beautiful Mormon wives were caught up in a cheating scandal, the eagle landed. They covered Swingergate and its fallout, casting Taylor and 7 other MOMTOKers. Now, based on the story so far, you might be assuming that the MOMTOKers who participated in the show were the ones that had anything to do with the story, like Miranda or Camille, or maybe this third mysterious person whose husband had cheated with Taylor. Who the hell was that, right? But no, neither one of Taylor's twin daughters wanted anything to do with the show, and the reason why differs depending on who you ask. According to Miranda, she and Camille turned down the show because they didn't want their families and lives exploited again. But according to Taylor, they were both totally down to be on the show. until the production company confirmed that Taylor would be on it too. I love how all of the receipts are just TikToks from Taylor. A+ on keeping us updated, queen. Anyway, let's talk about who actually signed on for season 1, and I'll do a little overview of their public dramas if there are any. There was a bit of additional casting that happened after Taylor's arrest. They were considering doing the show without her. I just can't fathom that. I mean, there really is no show without Taylor. Sorry. So aside from Taylor, we have our girl Whitney Levitt, the first mom talker to hear Taylor's side of Swingergate and forgive her. Whitney actually started out in another mom talk group, and by mom talk group, I just mean moms who danced, right? But as soon as the Taylor Frankie Paul mom talk group came knocking, she was like, bye, bitches. Her biggest scandal, for sure, was, I don't even mean to laugh at this, it's really not funny. It's not funny. It's really not. She had a baby, and the baby was in the NICU, so someone commented asking what was going on, and she responded with a dance, like in the hospital next to her sick baby. The baby had RSV, which is pretty serious, right? I don't know, but people were like, are you seriously doing a TikTok dance next to your sick baby? Regardless of the backlash, I really don't think this situation keeps Whitney up at night. She feels like it was well-intentioned, and she only regrets posting it because of the public response. Interestingly enough, in an ironic twist of fate, Whitney's other scandal happened when her husband Connor's active Tinder profile was discovered and shared on TikTok back in April 2022. Great to see that people are still doing the whole holding a fish thing on there. Keep it real, boys. But the timing is really crazy. This was a month before Swingergate. Whitney's first thought was that the Tinder profile was fake, but when she showed it to him, he admitted to it. Not only had he been perusing on Tinder throughout their entire marriage, he also had a porn addiction. The couple addressed everything on Whitney's YouTube channel, and in the now deleted video, Connor talked about his childhood trauma and how that contributed to his addiction at a young age. He said that he never cheated on Whitney, and he wasn't even trying to meet up with other people using his Tinder account. He was just searching for validation, messaging other women, and exchanging nudes. It's possible that Connor actually was on there looking for hookups. It's possible that he was just looking for nudes. No one really knows the truth of that except for Connor and probably Whitney. But those were the two big Whitney moments, okay? Those were the things that were happening before the show. The other mom talker who had public issues, I guess, would be Michaela Matthews. Her whole thing was that she got pregnant at 16 with her 21-year-old then boyfriend, now husband's baby. People come for her because of that age gap, which is legal in Utah and from my understanding, not entirely uncommon. For me personally, the thought of being 21 and dating a 16-year-old is very unusual. Like, when I was 21, I don't think I had anything in common with 16-year-olds. But they are married with children, so clearly she feels good about it now. She also posts about having chronic skin issues and how painful that is, which I think is really good. Chronic illness can be really isolating, and this is one you can see, right? So there's an insecurity factor there as well. I just think it's very vulnerable and brave that she shares this. But yeah, main thing with her before the show is the age gap and the teen pregnancy. The next mom talker turned reality star is Demi Engemann. We've got another age gap here. She introduces herself as a 29-year-old with a 46-year-old husband. And I can confirm, the husband is hot, okay? He's pretty hot. He's giving Netflix reality TV realtor, you know what I mean? Very buttoned up, very gelled, you know, he always looks kind of dewy. But what's weird about this one is that the two of them first met when she was 9. She was 9, he was a grown-ass adult who was married. And let me just be clear, he was not interested in her when she was 9 years old. It's just a little spooky detail. But they wound up getting together when she was going through her divorce, and the story is actually kind of wild. This man was supposed to be on Claire Crawley's season of The Bachelorette, and TMZ exposed him and Demi on a date. So it was this whole narrative. Demi's cheating on her husband, and Brett's two-timing Claire, because no one knew that she was getting divorced or that he was no longer interested in the show. Pretty crazy. I'm sure he's very grateful that he didn't end up going on that season because it was a fucking mess. We should talk about that sometime. Next up, we've got Jen Affleck. No, not like Ben Affleck. I think we need to all just stop pretending that they're related. I'm not buying it. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. I need some receipts. I need some evidence. I need Ben to tell us. But her whole thing is that she is a conservative, good LDS member who is trying to repair the reputation of MOMTOK. I couldn't really find anything notable about her before the show, no big drama or anything like that. But once the show starts, honey, things definitely pick up. Her husband is doing the absolute most. We've also got Macy Neely. Not a ton of drama or backlash towards her either. I will say I am a fan, okay? I do really like her. She has this blog where she's extremely open and honest about her past, and she has experienced so many fucked up things. She was in an extremely toxic, abusive relationship in college. She wrote about being pressured into having sex and drinking alcohol. She said that she was cut off from her friends. When she tried to leave him, he would basically threaten to snitch on her to the BYU Honor Code office. If you don't know, BYU is an LDS college. There are a ton of rules, and if you break any of them, you can be expelled. Like, I remember one of my friends from high school went to BYU, and he was secretly making hooch under his dorm bed. It's very serious. But the abuse toward Macy got physical. She wrote about him threatening her with a knife, shoving her, date her, and so much more. It really is extremely vulnerable, and it was just so sad to read. I felt so bad for her. But long story short, for this video, she met a new boyfriend, got pregnant, and then learned that he was cheating on her. He's texting her, apologizing, and she's so pissed off at him. And unfortunately, when he was mid-text, he got into a car accident and died. And then the next day, she found out the gender of their baby. I mean, it truly does not get more heartbreaking than that. I definitely encourage you to read her full story. It's linked in the references. Just mentally prepare yourself, because it's a lot. But I think that because everything she'd gone through, going into this first season, Macy was really the wise voice of reason kind of character. Like I said, I personally really like her. I am biased towards her, and she clocks Dakota very well. And I gotta be honest, the rest of the MOMTok TV girls didn't really have much going on before the show, so we're just gonna breeze through the rest. We've got Jessie. She's a hairstylist. She gives everyone those hair by Chrissy beachy waves. And in the previews, she is very much giving Sinner. She is like the complete opposite of buttoned up Jen Affleck. We have to say Jen's full name, by the way. Layla, she's young, divorced, a single mom, very cute. Dare I say, a little bit boring. Not a lot of story happening there. But yes, these are all of the ladies on the MOMTok TV show, which we now all know is called The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives on Hulu. The show premieres on September 6th, 2024, and it's Hulu's most watched unscripted season premiere of the year. Personally, I binged it. I loved it. It showed the fallout of the scandal, sure, but it also touched on the women's relationships with their faith, their husbands, their families, and their friends. For example, on the second episode, there's this storyline about Whitney deciding whether or not to promote sex toys on her social media. She had to consult the other women on whether or not $20,000 was worth putting her good, innocent image in jeopardy. We also had a storyline about the girls going to a Chippendale show in Vegas and Jen Affleck's crazy-ass husband losing his shit about it. Never mind that he was out there gambling away Jen's money. Now, I don't claim to know everything, but I'm pretty sure gambling is a sin. I'm sorry, he pissed me off. He either is diabolical or got a really bad edit. The show was so popular that it was almost instantly renewed for a second season. But as I mentioned, the show didn't feature Camille or Miranda, and we still didn't have 100% final confirmation on who was involved in the swinging. The show actually barely brought it up. All we knew was that no one on the show had participated, aside from Taylor, obviously. And that just wasn't enough information to satisfy anyone. The truth is that there was a major puzzle piece missing from the whole Swingergate story. An important player had remained silent and private for almost 2 years, despite a bunch of theories and speculations about her involvement. But with the success of the show and a bunch of fresh eyes on the scandal, maybe this person felt like it was finally time to come forward. And no, it was not Miranda or Camille. This was actually a name that we had never seen tagged in the MOMTok captions. At the end of 2024, a woman named McKenna Gibbons unprivated her social media accounts and said that she was finally ready to talk about her involvement in Swingergate.
I feel like I am in a healed spot in life that I want to share my experience to hopefully help someone else that might be in similar shoes know how to make better decisions.
But who the hell was McKenna Gibbons? Well, of course she wasn't involved in MOMTok, and she didn't have a significant social media following. She was a young LDS wife and mother who partied with Taylor and the other swinging couple, which eventually led to her and her husband Braden participating in the festivities. In a 5-part TikTok series, McKenna walked us through the whole story from the very beginning of her crazy-ass marriage. And it really starts out like a lot of the other ones. She and Braden met, got engaged, and got married all in the same year. And pretty much from the jump, the marriage was rocky. She tells this really wild story about him that has nothing to do with Swingergate, but I feel like it really sets the scene for the kind of person he is. Plus, honestly, it's just too crazy to leave out. I have to tell you this. So a few months into their marriage, Braden randomly stops receiving his paychecks, and he tells McKenna it's just an issue with the payroll company. Of course, doesn't really add up. He's working for this major company and they just stopped paying their employees. It's bizarre. And then one day, she answers his phone and it's someone from his company's HR department. She's like, "Hello, this is Braden's wife," and they're like, "Wait, what's your name?" "McKenna, why?" And they tell her, "You need to talk to your husband. Something's up." Turns out he was trying to take out a life insurance policy on her. Is this not giving Dateline? Her theory is that he was underperforming at work, told this lie about his wife being sick for sympathy, and the lie just went too far. He ended up going on family leave, and that's why he stopped receiving his paychecks, and the life insurance thing was all part of this lie. So at best, he's committing insurance fraud. At worst, he's planning some shit. Regardless, she stays with him and he cheats on her shortly thereafter. So they go to their church for some counseling, and the counselor tells Braden to leave the room and then asks her what's going on in the home that's making him do this. So now she's totally fucked up. When there's cheating, of course, there's insecurity or feeling like you did something to deserve it, and this feeling was underscored by the person they had gone to for help. McKenna stays in the marriage because she feels like she has to, and eventually they meet Taylor, Tate, and swinging couple number 2. Now mind you, at the time of McKenna coming forward, people feel very strongly that swinging couple number 2 is Miranda and Chase, but they're both still denying it even though they've already gotten divorced. Even Taylor has accidentally let Miranda's name slip at this point.
Yeah, and that's where MOMTOK does get involved. Yeah. Is like, you know them, Miranda, like, I can't, like, it's so hard.
I mean, it's obvious. So at this point in the video, I'm going to cut the shit and we're just going to use names. The swingers were Taylor and Tate, McKenna and Braden, and Miranda and Chase, okay? Follow me. So they start partying, one thing leads to another, and the swinging begins. It doesn't take long for McKenna to start suspecting that Taylor and Braden have caught feelings. They go on a cabin trip together, and one night, things go so far that Tate and Taylor almost fully switch with McKenna and Braden. They almost go all the way. After that night, McKenna confronts Braden and he confirms her suspicions that he and Taylor had something going on. He says that he talked to Taylor and they both acknowledged their feelings for each other, but neither one of them wanted to leave their spouse, so they decided to just leave it at that, I guess. As you can imagine, this does not ease McKenna's mind. In fact, it makes her more uncomfortable. When they go to a party at Taylor's and swing again a couple weeks later, she decides she's out. She doesn't want to swing anymore. It's getting way too dangerous. As it turns out, dangerous was an understatement. She and Taylor are still friends, okay? So one day, Taylor tells her that Chase has confessed feelings for her. For Taylor. The pronouns are a little confusing. Chase told Taylor that he had feelings for her. Taylor repeated this to McKenna. Anyway, McKenna repeats this to a mom talker named Victoria, and next thing you know, word gets back to Miranda. So the swingers decide to meet up, clear the air, and talk everything over. Well, at this meetup, Taylor gets so hammered that no one wants her driving herself home. McKenna and Braden offer her a ride, and she eventually takes them up on it. They drop her off at a friend's house. McKenna and Braden then go home. She puts her son to bed, gets in the bath. She thinks that this eventful day is over. But then Braden rushes in and says, "I was just on the phone with Taylor. She's in a really bad way. She wants me to pick her up from her friend's house and take her home now." McKenna doesn't really give a fuck at this point. She just tells him, "Do not bring her back here, but sure, you can pick her up and take her home." She knew that they had feelings for each other, and she suspected that cheating was happening, but she didn't have any hard evidence, so she wasn't gonna go off the rails just yet. Unfortunately, Braden ends up taking a little bit too long, and he stops answering McKenna's texts. When she checks the location of his Tesla, something is very, very wrong. It's just sitting outside Taylor's friend's house. So McKenna calls Tate. She doesn't want to just roll up to this house because she doesn't want to see something that she doesn't want to see. So Tate says, "It's fine, I'll go retrieve Taylor." When he gets there, he tells McKenna that it doesn't look good. What does that mean exactly? Unclear, but something definitely was going on. When Braden gets home, McKenna confronts him and he denies until the next day he finally admits, "Okay, yes, Taylor and I kissed, nothing more." And McKenna actually buys this until Miranda calls her and says that Taylor admitted to everything. They slept together, and now faced with Taylor's confession, Braden finally comes clean. He tells McKenna that not only had they hooked up the night before, but they had been meeting up in the Home Depot parking lot and hooking up for a while. I guess he chose Home Depot because if McKenna checked his location, that would make sense. I don't know. In their messages, he and Taylor exchanged "I love yous" and talked about leaving their spouses for each other. So now all of McKenna's worst fears had been confirmed, and she filed for divorce. I was very shook watching McKenna's account of what happened because it was very different from what Taylor had said. See, leading up to the show premiere, Taylor had gone on the Viall Files and told the full Swingergate story from beginning to end. And a lot of the details did match up. The cabin parties, Chase having feelings for Taylor, Taylor and Brayden having this emotional affair. On the podcast, Taylor said that she and Brayden texted often and inappropriately, but they never hooked up before that night. Matter of fact, Taylor's account of that night was very concerning to myself and a lot of other listeners. At first, her story matched McKenna's. She got wasted at the meetup and needed a ride home. Between her husband and the other two swingers who liked her, she had plenty of ride options, but Brayden ended up being the one to help her. But Taylor was so drunk that she had very few memories from that night. She didn't even remember hooking up with him and only knew that something had happened because of her physical state the next morning.
But I cannot say like what had happened in that room. I do know I slept with him. I woke up very messed up down there. And so that was really, really bad. Like, oh, that was so hard. Sorry.
This is really troubling because on the podcast, Taylor makes it abundantly clear she does not consider their hookup that night to be non-consensual. She feels like even if she were sober, she would have wanted to. But being so drunk that you don't remember having sex with someone who was presumably sober enough to drive you home is a little suspect, to say the very, very least. And Taylor's account of that night, as well as McKenna's life insurance story, raised a lot of red flags for me personally. After McKenna's video, Taylor didn't directly address the allegation that she and Brayden had been hooking up in the Home Depot parking lot. She did, however, post a response saying that McKenna had no moral or jealous opposition to the swinging. Actually, Tate had been the one to suggest they stop after almost going all the way that one night at the cabin. He could sense that feelings were being caught, and he also feared accidentally getting someone else's wife pregnant. That would be absolutely insane. Thank God that never happened. Taylor also shared a video of her and McKenna making out, as well as screenshots of a text that McKenna had sent about how much she enjoyed their swinging. After this, McKenna got a lot of accusations that she was only coming forward because of the success of the show and that she wasn't being entirely honest. She responded by noting that she'd been offered the show multiple times and had always turned it down, and she had screenshots of her own. In her screenshots, you can see Taylor asking her if she had a moral hangover following one of their wild nights, and McKenna kinda says that she does. Her response says that she'll discuss her feelings with Taylor after talking to Brayden, so it is possible that she did in fact to tell Taylor that she wanted to stop swinging. Also, that spicy text that she had sent to Taylor had actually come from Brayden. He texted Taylor from McKenna's phone when she was drunk. So now with McKenna's version of events, we had a much clearer picture of everything that had gone down with Swingergate, with a few little details still up in the air. Taylor and Tate had started swinging with their best friends Miranda and Chase before bringing in McKenna and Brayden. Chase told Taylor that he was catching feelings for her, and she immediately sounded the alarm to Tate and a few others. Now I will say, I was digging through some Reddit threads and I saw some comments from Chase completely denying this. He said that Taylor just threw this out to make it look like all of the swingers were messy and not just her. Basically, she just didn't want to take the fall alone. So we don't really know with 100% certainty that Chase told Taylor this. We also don't know with 100% certainty if that one drunken night after the meetup was the only time that Brayden and Taylor had hooked up outside of the confines of the swinging. What we do know is that this whole situation completely wrecked 3 marriages and also propelled the MOMTOKers' careers into the stratosphere. Oh, and as of yesterday, we also know Miranda's side of the story because she finally told it on what else? The Viall Files. During the interview, Miranda says that she was caught off by Taylor's initial TikTok live because she felt like the swinging situation was being misrepresented. She and Chase had not done anything other than kissing with any other couple. They'd hooked up with their respective spouses in the same room, but that was as far as it went. So for Taylor to say everyone was hooking up with everyone was not entirely true. That being said, her version of everything that went down with Taylor and Brayden matches Taylor's story pretty well. She also said Brayden's name, which I found very interesting. I mean, we all know it was him by now, but I'm just surprised that she wasn't more vague about that. Their stories differ when it comes to Chase saying that he had feelings for Taylor. Miranda said that Taylor's story about that changed depending on who she was talking to, and Taylor had also made some inappropriate comments to Chase that had crossed boundaries for her. For example, Taylor had come up to Chase at the gym and said that she had a sexual dream about him, and Miranda felt like this was crossing the line even though they had hooked up next to each other in the same room. And while Taylor had originally told their friends that Chase said he was in love with her, she told Miranda that Chase said he was developing feelings. And I feel like these are very different things. So Miranda was unsure about what was actually said, especially because Chase had been telling her that Taylor took his comment completely out of context. He was telling Miranda that he had said something along the lines of, "I'm worried if we continue this, that Miranda's gonna develop feelings for Tate, or I might develop feelings for you." So the vibe was very murky, and it was this murkiness that caused the demise of Taylor and Miranda's friendship, not the affair itself. When I said at the beginning of this video that there are different versions of the same event from different people, and that some people are leaving things out that other people are saying, this is exactly the kind of shit I was talking about. Miranda even said in the interview that sometimes Taylor can be so vague that she leaves these blanks that other people fill with their own narratives, and I think that's probably what happened here. It's possible that she left out her inappropriate comments to Chase and Brayden, the fact that she and Brayden had met up before, and the context of Chase's comment to her. The same way there's that uncertainty about whether or not her daughter was actually hit with the metal chair on the night of her arrest. You know what I mean? That's just my personal opinion. I feel like it's very hard to take one person's side in all of this because they all have very different versions of the same story. Sometimes details are left out, sometimes things are interpreted a different way. You really can't just take one person's word for what happened. And hey, maybe that's a sign that there are no real sides to take in all of this. I mean, it really just sounds like this was a clusterfuck of emotions, lies, and 3 marriages that were struggling before the swinging even started. So what now? Well, season 2 of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives should be out by the time you're watching this, and Miranda has joined the cast. According to Miranda, her divorce was a large reason why she decided to speak her truth and join the cast, so I imagine it was probably Chase wanting to keep it all mum. And I'm not gonna lie, at first I was annoyed by the apparent clout chasing. You lie for a long time about participating in the swinging, you don't join the show initially, and you only come in for season 2 after everything is really well received. But let's be real, the show would not exist without Taylor, McKenna, or Miranda. I feel pretty confident if there hadn't been a swinging scandal, there wouldn't be a show. And if there still was a show, it definitely would not be as popular. So now, I'm into it. Honestly, who isn't on reality TV for money and clout? Miranda's not doing anything different from the other mom talkers who capitalized on the scandal. In case you don't remember where we left off with season 1, there was this overarching theme about good versus evil, being a good, proper Mormon and being a bad Mormon, that kind of thing. Like, remember Jen Affleck uninviting some of the girls from her baby's blessing because they drank alcohol? Of course, there was also Whitney giving Demi the Fruity Pebbles in reference to this sexual story she'd shared with the group, and the whole Taylor having her 3rd baby out of wedlock thing despite pressures from her family and Dakota to get married. By the end of the season, there are cheating allegations against Dakota, nobody likes Whitney, and Jen leaves MOMTOK to go follow Zach to medical school. I will say that at the season 2 premiere, which I did document on my TikTok if you're interested, there was definitely some tension between the cast and Whitney. They left her out of a lot of the group photos and they were shading her during the panel discussion after the screening. Didn't see a ton of issues with Miranda though, which kind of surprised me because of the backlash that she was receiving for showing up for season 2. It was definitely very interesting, and I am very excited to see how everything goes this season. Please do not bother me for the next, I would say 5 days. 5 to 7 days, I will be out of pocket because I will be binging, yes. I hope they release them all at once. Please don't make us wait. So there you have it, a pretty comprehensive overview of MOMTOK, Swingergate, and the secret lives of Mormon wives. I hope you feel informed and excited to see what unfolds on the show. I definitely am. Researching for this video was very eye-opening for me. There were a lot of details that I didn't know before, and my opinion shifted a lot. It was a journey. What do you think of all of this? Are there any other aspects of the story that we should talk about more? Like, did I leave anything out? There are so many details and so much has happened. I'm sure there is something. So let's talk about it. And of course, thank you so much for watching. If you like videos about reality TV, internet history, and pop culture, I would love for you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can also follow me on TikTok and Instagram. I will definitely be sharing my thoughts about the show as it unfolds. And I would love to talk shit about Jen Affleck's husband with you guys. I love doing that. Okay, bye.